You ever wake up one morning and realize the life you built is quietly slipping away, not with noise, but with silence? That's how mine began to unravel. For those of you watching right now, tell me, from where are you watching this? I'd honestly love to hear. Because no matter where you are in the world, I promise love can make the smartest man blind and the gentlest woman desperate. This story is proof. Her name was Mira. When we met, she wasn't the kind of woman who turned heads. She was the kind who made you feel seen. There was a steadiness in her voice, a calm that made every storm inside me quiet. I was 29, working late nights as a project architect, juggling deadlines and dreams. She was a clinical psychologist finishing her residency. We met at a friend's engagement party, both pretending to be comfortable in rooms we didn't belong in. I remember how she laughed that night, not loudly, but with that kind of restraint that hinted at secrets. The kind of laugh that made you lean in closer. Over time, what started as small talks about work became late-night confessions about fear, hers about abandonment, mine about failure. She told me once that her mother had left when she was 7. She said she learned early that people leave when love isn't enough. Maybe that's why I should have seen it coming. We got married 2 years later, a quiet wedding, just 30 people, simple vows, no grand promises, just two people trying to start a life. For a while, everything was good. I'd come home to the smell of jasmine tea and the faint sound of old Hindi music playing from her phone. We'd talk about the day, our plans, the future. But then came the distance. It wasn't sudden, it was like winter creeping in through the cracks. Work swallowed me whole. I was managing a team that didn't sleep. Deadlines blurred weekends. Mira started spending more time alone. Sometimes, I'd find her staring at the wall for minutes, her tea cold beside her. I thought it was stress. I told myself marriage is about endurance, not fireworks. But the silence between us grew thick, like something neither of us wanted to name. Then one night she said softly, "I have news." I looked up from my laptop, half distracted. "I'm pregnant." I froze. The words hung in the air like music I didn't know how to dance to. I didn't jump or cheer, not because I wasn't happy, but because I was stunned. We hadn't planned for it. We'd barely been intimate the past few months. Still, her eyes were glistening, her hands trembling as she held out a test strip. I hugged her, said all the right things, but inside me a small, guilty voice whispered, "How?" The next morning she was radiant, a glow I hadn't seen in months. She started humming again, planning names, diets, baby room colors. I wanted to match her excitement, but something inside me stayed cautious. Weeks passed. She'd talk about nausea, food cravings, fatigue. She even brought home ultrasound photos, said her colleague helped schedule them early. I didn't question it, I wanted to believe it. One night, though, she was asleep beside me when her phone buzzed. I wouldn't normally touch it, but instinct, or maybe fear, made me glance. It was a message from an unsaved number. "Did you tell him yet? This can't go on forever." I stared at it, heart pounding. I didn't know what it meant. Maybe it was a friend, a patient who knew. But that night I barely slept. The next morning she was cheerful, making breakfast like nothing had happened. I wanted to ask, but I didn't. Cowardice disguised as trust. Over the next few weeks, my doubt began to eat me alive. She avoided hospital appointments, saying the doctor changed shifts. She'd come home with new reports I'd never seen her bring from the clinic. Once, when I offered to come with her for a scan, she said the doctor preferred solo visits due to confidentiality. Still, her body began to change, or so I thought. She wore loose clothes, spoke about back pain. I told myself, maybe I'm just paranoid. Maybe I should be grateful. Until that day. I came home early, a rare break from work. I wanted to surprise her, maybe take her out. The apartment was quiet. The bedroom door was half open, and there she was, standing in front of the mirror, holding something, a small silicone pad, skin-colored, shaped like a curve. She didn't see me. She was adjusting it under her dress, checking the reflection. For a second, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't denial. It wasn't confusion. It was clarity, so sharp it hurt. She turned and froze when she saw me. The silence that followed was the kind that tears reality apart. "Mira," I whispered, "what are you doing?" Her lips trembled. She dropped the pad and it hit the floor softly like a confession. I can explain." But she couldn't, because how do you explain lying about life itself? I sat down, numb. She knelt in front of me, eyes wet, hands trembling. "I was losing you," she said. "You were drifting away. You stopped looking at me the way you used to. I thought if there was something, someone you'd have to stay for, you wouldn't leave." The room blurred. I remember staring at the faint outline of the pad on the floor. "You thought a fake pregnancy would save our marriage?" She cried harder. "I just needed time. I thought maybe once you saw how much I loved you, we could fix it before I told you the truth." Love, that word, it suddenly felt poisonous. I didn't yell, I didn't curse, I just walked out, because sometimes silence screams louder than rage. I spent the night in my car, parked outside my office building, trying to process the wreckage. I replayed every moment, every smile, every touch, every ultrasound photo, how deep the lie ran. By dawn, I decided I'd end it, file for separation, move out, start fresh. But when I came home, the door was open. The living room was a mess, broken glass, papers scattered. Mira sat on the floor, crying, clutching her stomach. "I'm sorry," she kept saying. "I didn't mean to." Blood stained the tiles beneath her. My heart stopped. I ran to her, called an ambulance, held her while she trembled. All the anger, the betrayal, it dissolved into fear. At the hospital, the doctor came out hours later, shaking his head slightly. "She's stable," he said, "but she wasn't pregnant. There was a psychosomatic component, severe stress, possible self-harm trigger." I just stood there, unable to speak. When I saw her later, she was pale, eyes distant, like she'd left herself somewhere else. She tried to smile. "I just wanted you to stay," she whispered. "That's all." I didn't know whether to hold her or walk away forever. That night, sitting beside her hospital bed, I realized something I hadn't before. Love can't survive where truth has died. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. I sat in the hospital corridor until the lights dimmed and the smell of disinfectant filled the air. Nurses walked past, machines beeped, people whispered. Life went on, even when yours felt like it had stopped. I kept replaying it all, the fake scans, the lies, the fear in her eyes when I caught her. But underneath all that betrayal, something kept echoing in my head. I was losing you. And maybe she wasn't wrong. Somewhere along the way, I had stopped being her husband and become a ghost that came home to sleep. Work had taken everything, my time, my empathy, my warmth. I had been there, but not really there. The next morning, the doctor said she could go home in a day or two, but she needed therapy. "She's not dangerous," he said quietly, "just broken in ways love couldn't fix." When I went to her room, she was sitting up, staring out the window. Sunlight fell on her hair, but she didn't move. She looked fragile, not just physically, but in spirit. "Mira," I said softly. She turned, her eyes swollen but calm. "You shouldn't have come." "I had to." "Why, out of pity?" "No," I said after a pause, "out of responsibility." She smiled faintly. "You always were responsible. That's what I loved. That's what scared me too. I knew the day I stopped being perfect in your eyes, you'd leave. I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. Maybe I had built our love on silent conditions: be calm, be composed, be stable, and when she wasn't, I drifted." When we left the hospital, the air between us was heavy. We didn't talk, just the sound of tires rolling over wet asphalt. At home, the silence returned, not the cold silence from before. This one was different, fragile, like both of us were afraid that even a single wrong word would shatter what was left. Days passed. She began therapy again. I slept on the couch. We talked in fragments about bills, groceries, medicine, but never about us. Until one night, I was half asleep when I heard her voice from the balcony. She was on the phone, whispering. I didn't mean to listen, but something in her tone made me freeze. "I can't keep doing this," she said. "He's here, but not really. It's worse than being alone." Her words cut deeper than any lie, because she was right. I was physically there, but emotionally, I had already left. A few days later, she asked if I could drive her to her clinic. She said she needed to submit some files. We drove in silence. When we reached, she looked at me and said softly, "Thank you for staying." I nodded, not knowing it would be the last time I'd see her like that, breathing, calm, almost peaceful. Hours later, my phone rang. It was her colleague, her voice trembling. "There's been an accident," she said. "Mira." She jumped from the hospital roof. I don't remember how I got there. I don't remember the faces, the noise, the crowd. I just remember standing in the rain, staring at a sheet-covered body, and the world turning silent again, the kind of silence that doesn't leave. They said she left a note, just one line. "I didn't want to lose you, even when I already had." I read it 100 times, hoping it would hurt less. It didn't. In the weeks that followed, I learned how grief rewrites you. People came, said sorry, said she was unstable, that it wasn't my fault. But guilt has a language of its own, and I understood it fluently. I stopped going to work. The apartment felt haunted. Every room had her shadow, the scent of her shampoo, her handwriting on sticky notes, the faint echo of her laughter. One night, I found the fake ultrasound photos in a drawer. I stared at them for a long time, the lies, the fear, the love all tangled together in a single picture. I burned them, but the ashes didn't make me lighter. Months passed. I started therapy. It wasn't easy talking about someone who wasn't there to defend herself, but slowly, I began to see something I hadn't before, that sometimes love doesn't turn toxic out of malice, but out of fear. Mira didn't lie because she wanted to manipulate me. She lied because she was terrified of being left alone again, because somewhere inside her, that 7-year-old girl was still waiting for someone to stay. And me, I wasn't innocent either. I made her feel unseen. I let work, ambition, pride, all of it become louder than love. A year later, I visited her grave. It was quiet, covered in marigolds, her favorite flowers. I sat there for hours, telling her all the things I couldn't when she was alive. I forgive you, I whispered, and I hope wherever you are, you've forgiven me too. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of jasmine, her scent. For a moment, it felt like she was there, smiling, free. As I walked away, I realized something. Truth may break love, but lies destroy it completely. If you love someone, tell them the truth, even when it hurts, even when it's ugly. Because a heart that's broken by truth can still heal, but a heart broken by deceit never beats the same again. So if you're watching this right now and there's someone you're hiding something from, remember honesty isn't what ends relationships. Secrets do. And sometimes the price of silence is everything you love.